What's the hardest skill to learn when learning to ride a motorcycle? Anyways, let's get into it. So I was listening to the High Side, Low Side podcast. If you guys haven't watched, yeah, I guess you can watch it. It's on, they do have video of it. But if you haven't listened to it, it's a motorcycle podcast. They talk about all kinds of motorcycles. It's mostly riding that I don't like to do, but I do enjoy it because they talk about new technology coming out, new bikes, different types of riding, and on occasion they do talk about Harley Davidson or Indian. Or they'll have guests on that will talk about it. But for the most part, it's just general motorcycling stuff. Really good podcast. I recommend it. They only do maybe like 10 to 12 a year. Hour to 2 hour podcast. It's good to do when you're, going for a walk or riding the bike or doing whatever. Recommend it. But anyways, the last episode I listened to, they were doing an AI versus humans for knowledge of motorcycling. And one of the questions that they asked it, so the way it worked is they would have a suggestion that people tend to ask, like go to Google and search something, or they'll go to ChatGPT. That's who they were using this, and type in a question about motorcycling. The three of them would give their answers of what they thought it would be, and then AI would spit out their answer, and then they would rate how accurate AI was. They came to this one question, and it was, what's the hardest skill to learn when learning to ride a motorcycle? And it kind of intrigued me listening to their answers. Now, the one guy talked about spatial awareness or situation awareness, which basically he was saying is making sure you know how to look around everywhere while you're riding, being aware of your surroundings, aware of what's going on around you. He said that was the hardest thing to learn when you're learning to ride a motorcycle. The second guy, he was trying to guess what Chat GPT would actually answer, and he said he thought it would be the counter steering, but that wasn't his answer. His answer was actually learning how the bike feels underneath you. Basically, if you lose traction, leaning over, stuff like that, how the bike feels. And then the last guy, actually, his was basically having to do everything at once, like learning how to, to pull in the clutch, braking, downshifting, putting your leg down to stop, like doing everything all at once. So basically a multifaceted, thing. Now, when I heard these answers, the first thing I thought of is like, well, these guys are like, all of them started riding when they were like little kids from their parents or from their dad. And they've all been 20, 25 plus years of riding experience. So I don't know if I think they're overqualified to know what a new rider needs. So I was surprised at some of their answers. Not that those aren't hard things to learn and you should learn them. But I think it's looking at it too much of a advanced rider's playbook, I guess. So I have only had my license for about 4 years now. My daughter just went through getting her license. My son's just about to go through starting to get his license. So I feel like, I don't think I'm more qualified, but I kind of know what they're having to deal with. So I thought I would come on and find out if they're correct or if I'm correct, or if ChatGPT actually had the correct answer. Now, ChatGPT actually, I think, has probably on this one, I think it actually had the best answer, and it basically was, well, it depends. Which, when it comes to motorcycling, a lot of it depends, and it said it depends based on your level of experience. While I mean, you're learning to ride, so you should technically have zero experience. So, but besides that, it goes over and it lists different things. It lists the counter steering. It lists being aware of your surround. It actually listed everything that the other guys were actually talking about. uh, watch plus the clutch throttle, using the clutch and throttle together. So basically, it provided the answer the same as all of them, and then added some more based on it depends on the rider, which you can't really disagree with. Now, when I look at all of their answers, the one issue I have with it is I don't necessarily think I don't think they're wrong answers. I actually kind of just dumbed it down, because one of the main things that prevents people from learning to ride is learning the clutch. That's why Honda's come out with the DCT transmission, the dual clutch, where there is no clutch, where you have to, it's basically a manual motorcycle. That's why billions of people ride, maybe not billions, but millions of people ride scooters in obviously in other countries and stuff like that. Here in Ontario, there's actually two different licenses. One's limited speed motorcycle license, and that's your scooters, and then one for motorcycles. I'm pretty sure if you get your motorcycle, you can do the limited speed, but I don't know. If you get the limited speed, I know you can't ride a motorcycle, but I think you can. If you get a motorcycle, you can get the limited speed. I'll have to look that up. No, anyways, that's not for this video. But yeah, so to me, the thing that actually prevents people from getting their licenses, to me, is the clutch. My wife tried to go through to get her license. It wasn't for her. She couldn't figure out the clutch thing. Not a big deal. She used to drive a manual car, so I thought she would get the clutch no problem, but the multiple things was an issue for her. So yeah, I think the clutch is the only thing that actually prevents people from getting their motorcycle license, because like I said, Honda's gone out of their way to actually create a bike that you don't need to know how to use a clutch. And anyone can jump on to a scooter, as long as provided they've ridden like a pedal bike, they can jump on a scooter and ride around on a scooter. There's no issue with that, but not everyone can jump on a motorcycle and ride that. But yeah, anyways, what do you guys think? Do you think that's the biggest thing that is hardest to learn for people, or is ChatGPT correct? And it all depends, because everyone has a different learning curve. Because I know for me, the one guy was correct. For me, it was learning how to do everything at once. I've told the story before. The first time I ever rode, actually, this bike is the first bike I've ever ridden before. I knew nothing about it. I didn't even take my course yet because of COVID. I couldn't take it. Took this out. I literally just went down the block. I forgot that the handlebars actually turned on it because I was too worried about the clutch, the brake, to putting my foot down to the stop. I tried leaning the bike into a turn after I stopped. Didn't drop it, but I came close to it. But it was because I was trying to do too many things that my brain couldn't process at the time. So for me, it was the multifaceted, but overall, I would say learning the clutch is the hardest. But anyways, that was for me. But what do you guys think? Do you think that's the hardest thing for people to learn, or is it something different? Until next time, later.